$7. Can I take your order?
Yeah, let me get a ranking of every single drive-thru in the game.
Would you like that based on food quality, service speed, or...
Oh no, I want that ranked on signage, cleanliness, and whether or not my Phantom Wedge can pull through for lunch.
Sir, I don't think anyone is crazy enough to even consider... Oh, it's you again.
That's right, you unnamed, underpaid drive-thru worker. It is me. And today, we'll be ranking every single drive-thru in Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, as per usual, I'd like to quickly clarify what we're considering as a drive-thru. A drive-thru is anything that allows you to purchase and receive physical goods or viable services without needing to exit your vehicle. So for today's video, we'll not be counting any toll or parking booths because that's going to be for a separate video. So look forward to that in the future. There are 2 motels in the game with drive-up windows. However, since the actual service you'd be purchasing at the drive-thru window requires you to exit the vehicle to use it, we will not be evaluating them in this ranking. Starting off with the worst drive-thru in the entire game, we head to the hands-off car wash near Franklin's auntie's house. This drive-thru car wash seems super easy to access at first. However, when following the proper road markings, the entrance is very convoluted. It first requires you to wrap around the building to get to the entrance, and even has a dumpster that slightly blocks part of the driveway. As for accessibility, this car wash has a very high queue capacity, and is no problem for the Clique wagon. But the Sand King does run into a slight height issue with the brush. Regardless, both of these vehicles make it through. The camper, however, is too tall to get in, which means you'll have to clean this vehicle by hand. The next test is the Saddler and Dinghy, which shows promising signs as we enter, but nope, the boat is too wide to fit the brushes. The Patriot Stretch also gets a wash with ease, while the Phantom Wedge MOC obviously doesn't fit. Moving on to the next and final car wash in the game is the Little Soul car wash, which might look smaller than the previous one, but actually has better accessibility for larger vehicles, leaving enough space for the Sand King XL to fit, and even enough space for the dinghy to wedge its way through. But the queue capacity and cleanliness here are much less desirable. Once again, the camper and Phantom Wedge just don't fit. The Phantom Wedge can't even make the corner. Moving on to our first fast food drive-thru, we head just west of Sandy Shores. Located along the south shore of the Alamo Sea, this abandoned food joint does have the infrastructure to prove that it once had a drive-thru area. Now, although this area is out of the way and abandoned and quite dingy overall, its shape and accessibility is above average. The Clique, Sand King, and Patriot Stretch are all able to order with ease, while the Camper and Saddler can order but do require some minimal damage and scraping. As for the MOC, needless to say, it gets wedged in there pretty good. Located just a few miles south, the Taco Farmer has a very similar design to the abandoned drive-thru. In this case, however, the signage and cleanliness of the building and area itself is much better, and the area has a lot more traffic, making it more applicable for a drive-thru business. As for the drive-thru ease of access and queue capacity, it can hold roughly the same amount of vehicles as its abandoned counterpart, with space for roughly 5 vehicles. It's also similar in the regard that every vehicle can manage to make it through with the exception of the massive Phantom Wedge, but some of them do require some scraping, damage, bumps, dents, etc. Moving to the heart of the city is one drive-thru that was fairly close to being excluded from this list, due to the fact that its drive-thru lane is basically just an alleyway, as this Chihuahua hot dog stand is wedged in between 2 high-rises. The building and alley are quite dirty, which is no surprise for a city center, but if you've ever eaten at Chihuahua hot dogs, you know that the toilet bowl will be the dirtiest thing by far. In regards to the drive-thru capacity, there isn't much space here, and with the addition of some dumpsters and a ladder on the side of the building, every driver has to be cautious when pulling through because it is a little tight. And don't even think about pulling a tractor trailer through here because, once again, it just doesn't work. And I don't know why I made this the metric for figuring out which one of these had best accessibility, because it's completely unrealistic. Who's bringing this to a drive-thru? One of the best designs for a drive-thru is the Up and Atom located in Vinewood Hills. Originally, this drive-thru is what pushed me to actually make this video, and its colors and cleanliness definitely helped jump it up to 6th place. However, we can't gloss over the fact that the only way to access the parking lot for this business is by coming through the drive-thru, which could make it confusing for the employees to keep track of what vehicle got what order if some vehicles aren't even ordering at all. As for the ease of access, it's definitely tight on the backside of the drive-thru for any larger vehicles, causing scratches on something as small as the Sand King XL. As for the larger vehicles with the Patriot Stretch and Sadler, it's clear that this is a very tight area. But despite some dents and scratches, they do manage to get through the entirety of the drive-thru, even if they have to jump a curb at the end. Now, as for the MOC, you can manage to pull up to the window, which is more than we've gotten in previous drive-thrus. But you'd have to reverse out, as there's no way to get this large trailer around the back parking lot and other side of the building. Moving on to our top 5 drive-thrus in the entire game, we head over to Mirror Park, which is an ideal place for this type of business, being both accessible from the road and in a prime location with a young demographic. Horny's Burgers isn't a great place for making money. As for their drive-thru design, it is a little tight on your way through due to the overhanging roof. However, upon the exit side of the drive-thru, there's plenty of space for longer vehicles to make a wide corner. So if it weren't for the tight entrance, every single vehicle would be able to make it through this drive-thru. Now, if you had to guess which vehicle couldn't make it through the tight entrance, which one would you guess? Now, if you said anything other than the Phantom Wedge, I don't know if we're watching the same video. Buckacherz is a franchise that's not very large, and neither is its drive-thru. Only boasting a max capacity of roughly 5 or 6 vehicles, this might be the sharpest turn in a drive-thru we've ever seen. Now, with the alleyway and parking lot behind the building, there's plenty of space to make a 3 or 4 or 17-point turn to get around the corner. Which means that for even longer vehicles such as the Sadler and its trailer or the Patriot Stretch, getting around this corner might be a bit more complicated than your average turn, but it is possible to do without hitting anything. And for once, even the Phantom Wedge and the MOC trailer can make it around the corner by using the alleyway. Sure, they have to hit a few things, but they can pull up to the window again. However, due to the overhang and the sign on the way out of the drive-thru, the trailer can't exit. So, despite being the closest we've ever been to the Phantom Wedge making it through the entire drive-thru, the Buckacherz does not manage to score those extra points. It's also important to point out the fact that if the drive-thru is used correctly, you'll either need a passenger or a right-hand drive vehicle to collect your food, because the window is on the wrong side of your vehicle. In third place along the east side of the map is Bishop's Chicken. The drive-thru is in a wonderful location for families going on a road trip. But it's also located next to a gas station and an ammunition that appears to have its own drive-thru. Though, don't be tricked, it doesn't have a window service for a gun store. As for Bishop's drive-thru, it's clear that they had larger vehicles in mind when they were making the blueprints, easily managing to accommodate the Classique Wagon, Sand King XL, Patriot Stretch, Sadler, and even the camper around those corners. And it may surprise many of you that the Phantom Custom does manage to make its way all the way around the corner despite having the MOC and long nose. However, this isn't a clean maneuver as many of the fences and curbs are hit, damaging both the property and the truck and trailer itself. So despite Bishop's having the most successful drive-thru so far, it's not quite perfect. Our top 2 spots both belong to Lucky Plucker locations. So let's go over these 2 locations and then we'll unveil which one takes the crown. We'll start by looking at the Lucky Plucker located down in Little Seoul. This drive-thru is very clean and has wonderful signage, actually featuring both a signage for the menu and a separate speaker box for ordering. As for the Lucky Plucker in Strawberry, it also features a quite similar queue capacity and is quite clean for its surrounding area. It also features a menu sign, though in this case the speaker box is not its own separate entity and is built into the sign instead. Both of these restaurants are in prime locations just outside of the city with high amounts of commuters who likely need food on the go. So, between these two, which is the best? Well, accessibility is still a big part of this ranking. So, how do these Lucky Pluckers do in that regard? Well, obviously the Classique Wagon gets through both of them without any problems, just like it has for every other drive-thru in this entire video. The Sand King XL might feel a bit tighter at the Little Seoul location, but has plenty of space on every side. The camper, however, feels even tighter at both of these locations, but does manage to squeeze through both the Strawberry location and the Little Seoul location. Moving on to the more difficult categories, the boat trailer does appear to be tighter around the corner at the western branch, while the trailer has plenty of swing space in Strawberry. Then again, both manage to succeed without any damage if done correctly. The Patriot Stretch seemed like a more difficult vehicle when I was planning this video, but clearly it hasn't had any problems for basically any of the drive-thrus, and the Lucky Plucker locations are no different. Which means it all comes down to the Phantom Wedge, and with the open alleyways in Strawberry, this behemoth of a truck actually manages to tear down some of those yellow ballers and careen its way around the corner to the window. Over in Little Seoul, the Lucky Plucker's drive-thru is much tighter, and managing to get such a long truck and even longer trailer around such a tight and narrow turn is next to impossible. But not impossible. Now sure, there might have been some weird game mechanics that are playing a big factor here, but the trailer did manage to get around the corner, meaning that these two locations are tied for accessibility. But there's one more factor that helped me to absolutely determine a winner, and that's the fact that the Little Seoul location has never been open for business. Similar to the Mile High Club, this fast food chain still has opening soon banners flying on the side of the building 12 years later, which means it's not very functional as a drive-thru, crowning the Strawberry Lucky Plucker as the best drive-thru in the entire game. Why was there a whistle? What the fuck?